I want my baby back, baby back.
Spooky season greetings and salutations, and welcome to Hacker Slash. If you're joining us again, welcome back. Stay here. Use the camera. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the party. We are a horror movie review podcast dedicated to telling you whether a movie is a hack,
A total joke, a waste of time,
or a slash.
Totally killer, pun intended.
We believe horror is for everyone, and as such, we're rating these movies with a perspective we've gained from our varying walks of life and the flavors of fear we fancy most. My name is Chris. I'm your friendly neighborhood slasher enthusiast. This week I'm joined by the Superfly Space Guy Mac,
It's a little small.
the classic horror connoisseur Sean,
I told you a banana wasn't going to be filling.
and the paranormal paramour Binks.
I'm not much of a sloth.
This week we're wrapping up a found footage franchise surrounding a haunted attraction where people have either mysteriously vanished or perished.
And remember to stick around for our B-sides at the end of this episode where we dive into some ridiculous conversation about horror villains unionizing. This content is usually for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers, but these are free sides all the way through Halloween, so stick around.
Before we get down to all that business, though, we have some follow-up.
Let's follow up on some stuff, multiple stuffs right now, in fact. So we had a special little thing going on with Hell House LLC. We wanted to know what you all thought of it. 26% of you hacked it, and surprisingly enough to me, 74% of you slashed it.
Come on. Yeah, it was like the first one is a good found footage horror film.
It is so good.
It is good. And I only appreciate it more and more, it seems, as the films go on.
Well, we have some comments on social media from some of our listeners. Rosio says, can't even explain my love for this movie. I've made so many people watch it.
Okay, yeah. You know, it took me forever to watch this movie, and no one forced me to watch it until this podcast.
I have a distinct memory of when this movie first came out. My older brother, Danny, talked about it being really scary. And not much gets to him. So I remember thinking like, oh shit, man, this must be really good. And I was not disappointed. But I don't think it's something that I've like strongly been forcing people to watch. Although now I think, should I?
Well, Martin says, bad acting, bad story. It would not grip me.
Man, Martin. I mean, that's kind of the point sometimes with these found footage films is the acting is just strange. But it's kind of what it's all about. You know, you got to be into it.
It's a vibe, and yeah, you either have it or you don't, I guess. Finally here, Jackson says, cool found footage that builds and delivers pretty well. The clowns be scary.
They do be scary.
The clowns be very scary.
Them clowns, they're just clowns to me. All right, that was thing number one. Let's talk about thing number two, House of Horror. We did a bonus episode for this. We collaborated with House of Horror Haunted Carnival, a haunted house and carnival in Miami, Florida, for their early preview night last week. So the two of you, Chris and Binks, you got to talk all things haunt related with their co-owner and their art and scenic director, Tony and Andrew, and deep dive into how House of Horror integrates horror films and storytelling into their haunts. So I know obviously you're going to talk about it in length, but did you have fun?
It was so much fun.
It was an absolute blast, and I cannot tell you how much I adored getting to have that conversation, not only with them, but also with Binks, because I feel like there are just so many moments where we just had little like looks at each other like, yeah, we were talking about doing like a quiet place, completely silent style haunt. It was very validating, but also it gives you this really incredibly, I think, balanced perspective on haunts as a business and haunts as love and passion for Halloween and horror. And it was so incredible getting to dive into their minds and see not only what they're doing to raise House of Horror and the bar for it this year, but also just how much of a love letter it is to just the art of scares and the art of fear. But I also learned a term, Binks. I feel like we need merch that says boo hole.
Yes, a boo hole.
What the fuck is a boo hole?
Do you guys want to take a guess as to what that is?
I don't even think we should explain it. I think that we should just tease it.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to listen to the episode to find out. But a boo hole.
Oh, I can't wait to find out this shit.
So there's good news, Sean. The episode is live today. And for any listeners in South Florida, you can actually check out House of Horror right now, as its grand opening was yesterday, and it'll be going on until October 31st. You can get 10% off your tickets using the code HackerSlash. We have a link to get them in our show notes, and you can follow House of Horror on social media at House of Horror Miami.
Sean, there's no way you're escaping this spooky season without going with Binks and I.
You have to. You have to, Sean.
Yeah, everything I've heard, it sounds like a fun place, so we'll make it happen.
Well, with that, the last piece of our follow-up, we want to welcome some new patrons, Jane and Zach. Welcome to the family. Your clown costume is over there in the corner, but you have to put it on in the dark and then creepily walk out to greet the rest of us.
Oh, that's spooky.
You know it. And that's our follow-up.
Well, in 2015, writer and director Stephen Cognetti introduced audiences to the infamous haunted hotel that held dark secrets buried deep within its walls. The story continued with the Abaddon Hotel in 2018 and then Lake of Fire in 2019, expanding the world surrounding the original site. Now, Cognetti takes us back in time with a new chapter, one that delves into the mysteries of a long vacant family home. This latest film explores what happens when a group of cold case investigators checks into a house where a family was brutally murdered. They're looking for answers about an unsolved mystery, but after 4 nights, they're never heard from again. And what's discovered on their footage turns out to be even more unsettling, some may say, than what was captured on the original Hell House LLC tapes. This week, we're talking about Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor. Who's seen this one before?
Okay, well, back when we did review Hell House LLC 3, The Lake of Fire, not that long ago, I decided that I was going to watch the first 2 installments along with it back to back. So now I know why, because I knew watching them like that, they were all going to blend together, which is probably why I remember talking about all of them so much. But I did not watch this one for whatever reason. I don't know why. I watched the first 3, didn't watch this one, so I found myself back in the Hell House universe.
Yeah, whereas I had seen Hell House LLC earlier on this year, I've been watching all of them with a close friend of mine because it's our first time watching them all. And we had actually started watching the franchise of our own volition. We hadn't even planned to visit this franchise yet when we were planning out our recordings. And so when it came down to Lake of Fire, at that point, we had known that we were going to do that episode and then do Origins. So I had told him, like, okay, well, let's power through Hell House LLC 3. We'll do Origins right after. But Lake of Fire left its imprint. So we were a little scared to go into this one. I'm not going to lie. But I'm finally, we've arrived. It was watched. And thoughts were had.
Sean and I were talking about this before recording, before you two jumped on. And I was like, okay, I'm writing my notes up. I've only seen the first movie. And then I was like, wait a second. I need to go fact check myself here, and popped into the episode where we reviewed number 2, and I was on it and had seen it and had thoughts.
Wow.
I was not on the episode for the third one. I don't know if that says kind of anything about the movies themselves.
Listen, the family that suffers together. And I think we need to suffer together.
That's right.
Here's the thing. Lake of Fire, Lake of Bullshit really left its mark. I mentioned moments ago how this franchise was a fall from grace. I've seen every movie up until this, but this just came out last year. So I hadn't bothered because of how bad 2 and 3 were. This is genuinely a repeat of the Saw franchise for me, where I loved the first one, saw the second one, thought, oh, that's unfortunate. Maybe the third one's great. Oh, that's even worse for me. Hate it. And then just stopped pursuing anything else. So going into this, there was a cynical part of me that didn't expect much at all. I'll admit that. But then I heard great things about it. Not enough to overhype the movie, but enough to think, maybe they realized they fucked up.
Yeah, I think it's fair because just given the track record of this franchise, you just can't be expecting this one to be super good. If we're being honest, you know what I mean? Just given the track record. But I also didn't go into this one knowing a whole lot about it. Hell, I didn't know shit about it. I feel like I was expecting maybe to get some more backstory to the lore, given the name Origins of it all, right? Are we going to see more about how this Abaddon Hotel came to be? Or are we going to get to some maybe further backstory on this Tully guy? I don't know. But didn't go into it expecting a whole lot other than not feeling great based on the track record.
And for me, I felt like a little bit of the opposite in a sense because I had heard such positive reviews about Origins. I mean, the ratings on Shudder alone, like that's where I watched it. And so I saw the rating was pretty high. I'm a big Letterboxd user. Mike Flanagan was praising this movie. So I was like, damn, okay. It's, maybe something went very fucking wrong and they fixed it all and they're actually going to be able to revive this, right? So I expected really good scares. I expected some good exposition that, to me, the previous films had really just lost control over. The dread, the tension was going to be at an all-time high. All of these things that it seemed like the second and the third one had continued to really fail at time and time again. And like you were mentioning, the origin story too, right? I was like, well, I know that the second and third just lose control of exposition and story. The lore is insane. And I feel like if it wasn't for you explaining the lore a little bit more in the third movie, when we did the review, I honestly wouldn't know a damn thing. I would have needed a revisit of that origin real quick. So that's kind of what I was expected, and I wasn't mad at it. Most origin story films feel a little repetitive and unnecessary at times. So this was one that I was actually looking forward to because I felt like I needed it.
Binks, I just want to remind you, and I feel like I want to say this to you as someone who loves you and respects you.
What are you about to fucking say?
I just want to remind you that people also said good things about In a Violent Nature.
You're right. And this is where...
That's it.
I know what this stems from. My therapist would say that this is me pulling a Chris and seeing the potential.
Not your therapist referencing me.
Nice.
Wow.
No, but I feel like I wanted to give this one a shot. And I give some films that, even my friend, right? He was like, this film's probably not going to be that good. It's probably not going to be that good. And I was like, no, look at the ratings. I'm an idiot.
No, you're not an idiot, but I do admire your optimism.
That's good.
We need more of that joy in the world. It's pure.
Oh my, I don't have it. I had to base this off of my very limited experience with anything that is found footage. So I expected this to be poorly written, poorly shot, poorly acted, and just a silly haunt with too many cuts, deliberately bad camera work, and perhaps a meandering, nonsensical plot. Kind of like you've gotten in the past, but that's what my expectation was, as is every found footage movie ever.
I forgot that you really detest found footage films.
Yeah, it's his, whole thing.
It's my shtick.
Yeah, it's the Mac experience, really.
That's right.
But here's the thing, though. We talked about the found footage of it all. I know that I talked some shit about the last two movies in this franchise, but I really do enjoy found footage.
Me too.
It's a good thing for me. And then, honestly, found footage and lesbians? Yes. Thank you. Finally, at long last, we're given what I've been asking for this whole time. But, I mean, lesbians aside, this movie starts off with what I feel is much better exposition and stage setting for the rest of the film than we got in the previous two movies. It circles right back to, I think, doing almost as good of a job as the first film does, starting off its story. And I will say there is a disconnect on the sound. I'll talk about that more in the spoiler zone where we can actually dive into the specifics of these scenes. But for as much of an upgrade as parts of this movie feels like, it's almost like it went a little bit too far because the quality is too good and too consistent for there to not be visible microphones. It's as if there's a secret fourth person who's the boom operator in the room. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I feel you.
I also felt like this measure of disappointment with some of the ham-fisting we get about the previous films. And Mac, this is, I think, what really does it for me with your interaction with the franchise thus far, because there's some ham-fisted insertion of like, do you know the Abaddon Hotel? And it's like, what the fuck is this, the Muffin Man, bro? Do you know the Abaddon? It burned down to the ground.
I'm not surprised. I think that's par for the course, to be honest. While watching this, honestly, the thing that I felt the most was that I think a documentary on staplers would have been more up my alley and would have captured more of my attention.
Fuck?
I'm sorry. What?
A documentary on staplers.
Staplers.
I could have never expected you to say that, and that was really iconic. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. My brain was just stapled together. I gotta say, the best way I can summarize my feelings towards this film is that it felt like it was trying to rise from its own ashes based on its previous failures. And although you can do that, the reality is that doesn't mean that you don't see its scars, right? So I felt like it was trying to do things that were meant to convince me that this is a really good film that supersedes its predecessors, when in reality it was just doing the bare minimum. And it actually did the opposite for me, where it convinced me that the first film is just better and better and better with time. And we see this a lot in franchises, right? I was feeling like I was on the fence for a bit towards the end, though. I almost wanted it to be a standalone, but then it featured the clowns, and so, which we see even in the movie poster. It's got its nods to the previous films. I feel like if it was just a standalone and didn't really integrate any of those components, maybe I would have liked it a little bit more and I would give it more credit, but it just continues to be a film that can't decide what it wants to be. Do you want to be a standalone with a little bit of an Easter egg, or do you want to actually continue with this unnecessary dribble about the Abaddon Hotel?
Yeah, the film itself, I feel like there's parts of it feels like a departure from the first three films, and parts of it that kind of feels a little bit the same. And I also think this movie was way more interesting than the last two films that we got. This one didn't feel, to me, as cheap as the last two films by any means. I still think the first one's going to be top, but I thought this one had some creepy moments. I think it was even able to build some suspenseful moments. But I think overall, it definitely was more interesting. This one felt like it was a more mature found footage film in a way, and felt much more fluid than the last two films that we got.
Okay, I want to give you my theory on why that is, though.
Okay.
It's because this is what the Blair Witch Project would have been were it made in 2023.
Maybe, yeah, okay, maybe.
I mean, realistically, you have people who go out to fucking hang out at a haunted spot to investigate.
Right.
To complete some kind of video production project. They go out to some locals. The locals are like, yeah, I know that place. You're fucking crazy for going there. And then you have some bitches in the woods.
The reality is that's something that had me feel disappointed by this film, because is that not also Hell House LLC 2? You know, this film continues to some extent. I don't want to take it that far because the previous films are like more on the business side of things of having a haunt. But I believe it's the second one in particular that is very much people fucking around and finding out. And that's what this is. It's just in a different setting. So I was disappointed that it was still, in terms of like the bare bones, the skeleton of this film feels very copy and paste. Although surprised that there were certain elements that didn't feel as cheap as the previous ones. I agree with you, Sean. There was definitely some creepier moments, certain elements of found footage films that they've integrated into this fourth installment that I think evoke like really good fear tactics, but I expected it earlier on because, again, this is a franchise that exists in modern day that isn't Blair Witch. Like, you could have done certain things that I don't want to reveal just yet, but you could have done some of these things in the previous films to make it better. You just decided to do it now because you probably have enough money to do it, I guess. I hope, it seems like.
Okay. But here's the thing, though. I don't know that it's completely fair because I think this movie takes a departure from the Abaddon Hotel, and it does things that I agree with Sean are way more interesting. And I think we know that it's simultaneously a prequel and a sequel.
Yeah.
To the original film. And obviously in the two prior films before it. But I think it fleshes out its story in a nice way. Do I still give a fuck about the cult of it all? No. It's interesting. And what it also does is manage to defy some tropes. Every haunted house film, we see that it's some dude bringing his family into a haunted house.
Oh, right.
And then refusing to leave. I really enjoyed the composition of the main characters we have in this film. And while, yes, we get some weird shit that goes on in there, I thought overall it was really refreshing to at last not have some fucking guy who wants to go into the Abaddon Hotel and make money off of it. Jesus.
Thank God. We had to break that cycle for sure. I think that was one of the more surprising things for me when watching this movie was just the timeline because, yeah, it does take place afterwards, but also is an origin story of sorts. It's like this mixture of things, and I kind of was surprised about that because I didn't know what to expect, but given Origins, I thought we were just going before everything just by default. But my biggest disappointment, and I don't know that it's a huge thing, and I can elaborate on it later, but just the choice of some of the, not necessarily the found footage style that they carried over, but the documentary style that they brought it over that I just didn't think worked in this film.
That's interesting. I like the documentary style, but I was for sure disappointed in just some people and their acting.
Yeah, the acting isn't great, but
I'll say that that documentary style is probably the biggest surprise for me here, because it is very much in the line of, in recent years, all of the docuseries that you get on Netflix and Hulu and all the other streaming services. It fits in very much the way that it's shot, the kind of way that they pace some of it and even transition into other clips feels very much like current docuseries. And I'm kind of here for that. It was a pleasant surprise for me, especially compared to discussions on a news forum that we get in one of the previous films.
maybe I'm just missing that one old dude that was doing the interviews in the first couple of films.
I will say earlier today, I was walking through a hardware store and they were selling these 10 foot, 15 foot, maybe clown animatronics things. They move and they have glowing eyes. And they're silly and it's cute for Halloween and whatever. But I think that's about the same level of scary as this movie is to me.
Yeah, I think that there are definitely some great scenes that will disturb you if you are a little scaredy cat like me. It definitely felt a little tense, but I didn't feel nearly as scared as I have the first film. The second one got me a little bit more, actually, than this one. Some I appreciated and thought were eerie. There was one or two times where I did clench my fists, okay, something's going to happen. Maybe this is going to be the big scream. But it's not like I was out here screaming, oh, hell no, or anything like that, like I usually do. It was nothing like that.
Okay, that's interesting. When you first started that sentence, I thought you were going to go a direction of if you're a scaredy cat, you might be disturbed. And when you said like me, I was like, oh man, she really fucking got.
Granted, if we look at the timeline of me being on this podcast, I think I've started to slowly but surely get a little bit more desensitized, but there's also still going to be...
Still a cat, less scaredy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have a confession about this movie in particular.
Did you get got?
When I watched the first movie, I distinctly remember watching it home alone in the first apartment I ever had completely to myself. And I remember feeling so uneasy with that fucking clown. And clowns don't get me. I'm not generally someone who is afraid of clowns or has an issue with clowns, anything of that sort. But maybe it's because my brother had told me that it was scary. I remember the feeling that Hell House LLC gave me. And when I was watching this, I was in Allie's apartment alone in the dark. So a familiar place, but not home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there were moments in this movie where I did feel my chest tighten. And I do not get that often. That's very rare for me. And I think maybe it was because of how invested I was in Margot and Rebecca together that I think it made it feel a little bit more relatable for me. So when we get the spooks, I was a little bit more invested. I was a little bit more bought in and believing in this movie.
I'm with you on some of these feelings. I think it's not like a super frightening film, but it gives you that kind of eerie vibe where, if you are watching it late at night in the dark or whatever by yourself, and then maybe the movie's over, you have to pause it and walk across the house to the kitchen in the dark. You just got this kind of ooh, what's, let me look around a little bit, let me look behind me or down the hall or something. But in terms of which one of this whole franchise is the most frightening, I honestly think it is kind of a tough one between the first one and this one. Although the first Hell House film was creepy in its own way, the lack of answers and overall mystery surrounding the film also added to the effectiveness of that film. And this one, Hell House Origins, it had some of that same feeling from the first one, but it really added in some genuinely creepy moments and really built on some of the dread and even threw in some decent jump scares.
Shared that, and I just want to run it back in terms of what I've said and be a little bit forthright. I recognize that I probably was less scared, and by probably I mean 85% certain that I was less scared because I have seen all of these movies with someone. Because I'm pretty sure that initially when we started watching the film, we actually had to stop and because we had other things that we had to do. And he had asked me if I was going to go and watch the rest of the film by myself. And I told him, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. So this is honesty hour. And that's probably why
Binks, thank you for sharing and living your truth with us. This is a safe space.
But I feel like, I don't know, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that it's been that effective for all of you because, I just feel like it's a rehashed formula that we've gotten over and over. Clowns are creepy. And just found footage is, to me, so played out. And this movie is not an exception to that rule. It was not scary in any way. It just felt like all the other stuff that we've seen done in this style. You've already mentioned, Chris, that the conceit to this film is basically the conceit to every other found footage where people screw around and find out. And also, it reminds me of X-Men Origins. And we all saw what happened to Deadpool in that film. Okay.
Oh, God.
So I think using Origins in your title is setting yourself up for being just recooked trash from another restaurant.
Well, there's no accounting for taste. I still think it's fun.
Man.
But it doesn't feel fresh to me, though, even if it's fun.
Okay, trash from another restaurant. What are some chain restaurants, Mac? I want to see if I can follow you on this metaphor.
Yeah.
What are some restaurants that you're thinking of? Give me an example.
So imagine somebody from Chili's goes to an Applebee's and takes trash out of their dumpster and then cooks it again. And then they go, here is an Origins film. Go for it.
Okay. I thought you meant the metaphorical trash and not the literal trash. I thought you were going to say like their appetizers are basically the same because these restaurants are the same. And then I was going to say, well, still fucking catch me at Chili's having their boneless buffalo wings because they're not fucking great, but they're edible and it's fun.
Those honey chipotle chicken crispers, okay?
Now we're out here defending Chili's.
And the skillet queso. Wait, we also can't provide too much free ad space for Chili's, okay? Yeah. Chili's, where's the sponsorship?
I want my baby back.
I feel God in this Chili's tonight.
Wow.
I will say, though, I really dug the way this movie took some crucial pieces from the lore of the first three films and almost incorporated them into its own story, and giving us some kind of origin story. And even though it feels like a bit of a stretch, and the amount of added backstory and lore added to this film, I really think this could have been an entirely different movie separate from the Hell House universe, and it would have been fine. They could have made this a separate thing. It didn't even have to be Hell House, and it probably would have stood on its own. The formula is, like you said, Mac and Chris, even, like, it's played out. Like, we have seen it before, but they execute it pretty well. I think the story itself that they gave was pretty, I think it was kind of original in some ways. I think they gave themselves the opportunity to create their own story while also, even to an extent, opening the door for more additions to this franchise if someone chose to do so. Because now they're not just like stuck. They can carry on.
Yeah, this movie is original within the context of its franchise.
Right.
It's not original within the context of found footage. It's not original in the context of horror at large or even just cinema at large. But for this to be a way to connect some jumper cables to the franchise and give it the jump start it needed.
Yeah.
This is in some ways someone falling down a fucking cliff and it grabs onto this one thin little branch to keep from dying. That's what this movie is. This movie is the cliffside branch of the franchise.
There's a will, there's a way.
Exactly. There's not a lot that's going to be new and refreshing for, those of you who've seen 1,000 found footage films or 1,000 horror films, but it does take a new approach to the lore of its story, the lore of its franchise, while also connecting the dots. And some of it swings and misses. I'll admit that. Hell House LLC, I think, is best when you don't know everything. It's best within its mystery. So there's a couple things that are, over-explained. But I think this still is good to stand on its own this is still good to stand on its own.
Both of you are really doing your best. And I appreciate both of your takes in terms of defending its originality. And it is giving me something to think about. For me, I'm a little stuck on whether its origin story of it all worth it. I think that the origin story of it all is not what you expect. And as a result, it will starkly disappoint you. And what this movie feels like to me is its attempt to revitalize itself in the franchise, which was extremely needed. And I'm not saying that it didn't do that, right? I want to go back to like my analogy earlier of like it's like a phoenix from the ashes. It's just that the phoenix looking a little ugly. And so that's what this film is to me. You know, it's a new setting, its circumstances are a little different. I do like your take, Chris, in terms of changing its main characters. It's not a man taking his family to a haunted house anymore. That's true. That this is a very big departure of that, but I'm stuck on this origin thing. And I felt like I spent the entire movie waiting for something that didn't end up actually happening. And when we get a big reveal, it's just like, oh, that's the origin story. It's kind of how I felt.
It's a stretch.
Yeah, I think you get to the end of some films and you think, OMG, what just happened? This movie leaves you feeling like, oh, it's over. What happened? Did anything happen?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly how I felt. I literally scratched my head like, wait a second. And then I even rewound it and I was like, oh, that's what just happened. No one asked for the kind of exposition that's provided in this ending and this big reveal. And I feel like there's not enough investment with certain characters for you to feel the impact of this ending. At least that's how I felt.
Yeah, I can see that this ending is not great. There are parts of it that I do enjoy. So I think with the last moment of the film, I really enjoy. I like overall the direction that it goes. But there is a large chunk of the ending where I'm like, all right, I get it. Let's move this along.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the ending probably isn't super needed. You know what I mean? Like they could have done something different. I think it is one of those movies where they're trying to do a more sinister type ending, you know, the big reveal in the third act leading up to the final moments and that reveal and different things like that. It's trying to add this haunting element. And I don't know if it was the most successful way to do it, but I know I mentioned it earlier, but it really does add enough new lore to open it up for future options. So it's just kind of like a hit or miss kind of thing for me. It wasn't the best ending. I wasn't like super mad at it. It was kind of just like, okay.
Well, I'm excited to see how the okay translates to an actual rating. But before we get there, Sean, how would you describe the gore score?
Well, I wouldn't say that there is like a ton of gore in this movie. I think this movie definitely had more blood and overall grotesque or disturbing visuals than any of the other films in this franchise. It was still only quick flashes of those disturbing visuals or flesh wounds and bleeding eyes and things like that. So either way, I'm still giving this one a low gore score.
And what about the animal report?
Animals are not harmed in the Carmichael Manor.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our ratings. Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor from 2023. Is it a hack or a slash?
Well, let me get the obvious out of the way. I think it's, apparently no secret that I have a strong distaste for found footage films or fake documentaries outside the context of comedies specifically. This film is no exception to that rule. Everything just feels cheesy, from the dialogue to the attempt at in-universe mythology. These sorts of films seem lazy to me, which is crazy considering how much work must go into making them. The filmmakers have to work hard to make the film appear badly acted, badly shot, and badly edited. And I wish they had just spent the same amount of effort just producing some decent storytelling using exactly the same premise. It was just an absolute bore that was a chore to follow along with, so it's a hack from me.
God damn.
Whew. Man. I gotta admit, I was not super hopeful going into this one based on how the last two installments in this franchise went. This one took literally everything that was creepy from the earlier films, and it did all of that to some extent. And I think it even threw in some more of its own stuff, some more jump scares. And as cheap as those jump scares were, I thought they were fairly effective. It's just the way they executed some of the stuff that we have seen before, I thought was just executed the right way. I think this film was able to create some tense and suspenseful moments that allowed me to really get into the film in those moments. It really felt like this perfect blend of, you've got the Hell House LLC, the first one, right? You've got some elements of the Blair Witch Project. You definitely have some paranormal activity elements in there. And you could even throw something like The Last Broadcast in there as well, which I know I mentioned from previous films. But it felt like a blend of all of these and just kind of learning from all of these found footage films that have come before it. And I actually found myself having a pretty good time, even with the lore and getting into this backstory a little bit as the film was progressing. I don't know that I necessarily like where it landed, but I do like what it was trying to do. I think Hell House LLC Origins really brought me to the Carmichael Manor, and despite its questionable acting, it had a compelling narrative. So I don't know. I loved how they were able to add some depth to the lore and really turning the Carmichael Manor into its own character in a way with a dark past. That's how it felt. This Carmichael Manor itself felt like its own entity, its own character. And I don't know that it's my favorite in the franchise, definitely not over the first one, but it's going to probably be the best one since the first one. And I'll happily check out of the Abaddon Hotel for this one and grab a room at the Carmichael Manor because I think it's worth a watch. I think it's a slash.
Meanwhile, I'm here thinking that this franchise has taken quite the slippery slope into the lake of fire, okay? The thing is that Origins for me was supposed to be this glimmer of hope. And I felt like the hype going into this watch had me convinced it would be worth the pain of the second and third film. And I'm honestly not thinking that's actually the case. Ultimately, this film is an improvement, but if we're honest with ourselves, it's mid. It's unnecessary. And more importantly, to me, it feels a little bit rinse and repeat. There are areas of improvement that are vastly better. Like, I feel like with a smaller cast, that some of them can actually act while others still definitely can't. There's room for improvement. There's room for you to feel like, okay, this is getting better. This is getting better. But ultimately, this lackluster exposition that is provided felt like it gave me more questions than answers when I felt like Sean was doing most of the explanation for me in the last episode that we did in this franchise. And I was hoping that the film would actually do that. I shouldn't have to come to Sean to explain to me what the hell's going on in Hell House LLC 3, 2, and whichever, right? So I think ultimately, at the end of the day, I really wanted to give this film more credit than it deserves. I was on the fence. I really wanted to like it. And I found that I've been in this situation a few times with franchises that we've seen when we're at like the 4th, 5th, 6th installment. But that ending really nailed it on the coffin, right? Like, it was determined. My verdict was in that this film ultimately is a hack.
Well, this is unsurprising. Listen. This movie is a vast upgrade from the previous 2 movies. And whether you hack it or slash it, I think we can all agree it's at least better than Lake of Fire. Objectively, it's a better movie. The question, though, becomes whether it's good or just good by comparison to what we get. I think it's actually just good, though.
Oh, God. Jesus.
This movie is not better than the first movie, but it's almost as good. If this were the sequel to Hell House LLC, I think they would have been way more successful, really elevating this franchise. And here's the thing. There's something to be said about having characters that you find relatable to really anchor you and ground you into this story. There is overacting, but there's overacting in so many movies. This movie managed, for someone who doesn't even get fucking scared in movies anymore, this movie managed to make my chest tighten. Now, I will also admit that it could be because I've been purely exhausted, so maybe I'm particularly vulnerable this past week. I will have to watch this movie again in the spooky season next year to really suss it out. But I don't think it's going to change, because it's not just the fact that we get a woman-loving woman couple. It's not the fact that we have Margot and Rebecca in this movie. It's also the fact that we see siblings growing up in a house and their interactions together. Every angle from this movie gives me something to bite into and hold on to that I think anchors me personally into its story. And I think that is a refreshing direction for the franchise to take. So listen, it's not for everybody, but it's damn sure for me. So Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor, is a slash. And with that, it's earned 2 hacks and 2 slashes, and we're split down the middle. Now, there's a lot more to discuss when we return from break. There's more to say about this movie, but if you've already seen this one before, please let us know what you would rate it. You can join the conversation for free in our Discord server, and you can find the link to join that conversation in our show notes. But if you haven't seen it yet, you can follow the link in our show notes to see where you can watch it right now. When we return from our break, We'll dive deep into the spoiler zone territory and really see how Mac and Binks and Sean and I can go at it. See you in a bit.
We interrupt this broadcast for this public service announcement. This episode of Hacker Slash is brought to you by the Evil Clown Labor Union, the local 666, the only union fighting for fair treatment and workplace dignity for all sinister clowns worldwide. Are you tired of getting the short end of the knife? Maybe you've been stuck in a boring old abandoned hotel or manor, waiting around for a group of innocent souls to wander in, leaving you to toil in the dark without any health benefits. Just look at Pennywise. Some of you may think of him as It. Before he joined the local 666, he was pulling double duty, terrorizing kids and crawling through nasty sewers without any hazard pay. Now his days of being exploited are over. The ECLU is here to demand fair wages, safer haunting conditions, and mandatory time off between scares. Because even the most twisted minds need a break. For too long, evil clowns have been overworked and underappreciated. No one knows the grind of building elaborate funhouses of terror, popping out of crawl spaces, and perfecting maniacal laughs like we do. Join now, and we'll throw in a lifetime supply of razor-sharp juggling knives and a free consultation with our local ambassador, Art the Clown, the Evil Clown Labor Union, where we believe a happy clown is a terrifying clown.
Welcome back, folks. You're now entering the spoiler zone for Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor, which has earned 2 hacks and 2 slashes. And we have a lot to unpack here, but before we get into the specifics of our ratings and probably get into some highly contested debate about it, let's go through those kills.
Well, this one might have snuck by because some of these kills are thrown into the lore and not necessarily captured on film. In fact, I think the only kill we really actually see on screen is Chase's kill, I believe. I think the rest is just like aftermath or mention. But either way, we have a surprising 11 kills in this movie. 11 fucking kills, and I'm curious to see which ones caught your eyes.
Well, speaking of eyes, Chase's kill, because his eyes are definitely removed.
Yeah.
They're gouged the fuck out. A good old chair swivel. That's the stuff that, yes, is copy and paste, but I'm here for.
For sure. Yeah, that was a good one, 100%. The eye gouging of it all throughout the movie is just wild.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Chase was my favorite, but I'm going to go to my backup favorite because I had a feeling this would happen. Catherine Carmichael also had her eyes gouged out, her throat slit. And there's a couple times where you see this. One, in the beginning, when we see the remnants of her body, it's like, holy shit, this is a great upgrade from the lack of clear gore we got in the rest of the franchise leading up to this. If you recall, it was just weeks ago when we watched Lake of Fire where they had what felt like probably just catch up, and these people were horribly acting their deaths as the camera slowly spinned around like it was on a Lazy Susan. Fucking awful, that movie.
Yeah.
But here you get not only the crime scene photos, but you get a moment when Rebecca is changing the sheets. The camera goes back to the bed and boom, carnage, blood everywhere, disgusting and so satisfying.
Yeah, she definitely got fucked up. She did not look good. She got messed up.
I don't know if there's any really to pick aside from those. I think you've covered the most impactful kills, at least visually. I think if I had to choose another one, I'd go with Margot's kill, though, simply because it was finally over.
Dang.
Okay.
You know, because once our main character is out, then the story is coming to a close. And I just wanted to see it like just go somewhere. And I realized it didn't.
Mm-hmm. I know that you meant that the movie was over, but in my heart of hearts, because of how annoying I found Margot to be half the time, I thought you just meant because she was over.
I think it's intertwined. You know, when she's yelling at her brother that he's got to be like dating somebody or seeing somebody or, you know, invite me to the wedding or all that silliness. There's probably some sibling relationships that are kind of like that. Siblings always want to know some information. But to me, that was kind of like, oh my God, this is annoying. Move on.
Yeah. I mean, these are all like, aside from Margot and Rebecca, right? Because we don't necessarily see much of anything. A lot of it is presumed and we know, but you know, it's not shown. And then obviously seeing Catherine and Chase, those are some brutal ones. But outside of that, there's not really much else other than Eleanor, because we do get to see some quick shots of that as well. Stabbed multiple times, probably bleeding, eyes gouged out as well. And so you got to throw that in there when we're talking about kills. The rest of them literally just mentioned in the lore or in the backstory.
Okay, but also how fucking sad for Margaret. And we do get to see a little bit of bloody Margaret later on, but when we get the reveal that there was a home video of her and it's her and Patrick about to go out, and then she talks about, you know, they'll be home before dinner.
Tragic.
Oh, yeah. To know that that's the last time she ever saw her. Terrible.
Yeah, that's a rough piece of footage, I think, to have. You know what I mean? Because those are literally like the final moments.
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating. And speaking of Margaret, I actually want to focus on what I thought was the most appealing part of this movie. We have massive upgrades in the cinematography. That's great. The mockumentary looks so much better. The frame of this story looks so much better. We have better quality footage from the cameras that Margot and Rebecca are using. Yes, but I also love the blend of the found footage, home videotapes of the Carmichael family. Because again, this isn't just some basic handy cam bullshit. Yeah, it's still messy. It's still not great. Mac, I'm sure you suffered every ounce of this movie. I know, but it is much better than you would typically find in found footage. And the blend of that camera from the 80s actually reminded me of the video camera that we had when I was growing up. And it was from the 80s, but I used it well into the late 90s. I call her Biggie Bertha. And we would just fucking shoot. I would make my own home movies. Again, lots of relatability in this film. But to cut so many different styles of that and for it to not look as terribly as it did when they pretended to fucking shoot mobile footage in Hell House LLC 2. So much better.
I do want to go back to that documentary part though, because the lighting and the depth of field in those shots was impeccable. And that was my favorite thing to look at. There was one part where I was like, I think we're going to get bokeh. I think we're almost there. That's how well things were going.
Yeah, it actually gave me the same upgrade feeling that I got watching the newest Paranormal Activity movie.
Interesting.
Where it's a bunch of YouTubers going out.
Damn. Okay. I didn't know that was what the new one was about. I will say, though, that going back to the overall camera work that has vastly improved in this film, that's kind of what I was hinting at earlier in terms of the tropes that they're integrating from other found footage. The home video component I was impressed by. The other thing that I really liked is there's a particular scene when Chase is in the hallway, and it kind of leads into my favorite scene, which I'll talk more about in a second, but the fact that the camera loses focus and you can't quite tell he's trying to autofocus the camera, we don't see enough of that in the previous films. And it makes you realize, like, okay, if this was really found footage, we're thinking of a camera. Your camera loses focus all the motherfucking time, okay? Mm-hmm. That shit is always zooming in and out and losing focus and stuff, but it's integral in a found footage film, not only to make it seem more realistic, but second, when it is blurry and you can't quite see, that means us as the viewer can't see. That's where the tension's built. So in that particular scene that I love, it is super effective and necessary, so I'm glad that they finally integrated that component.
Glad to know that we have the same favorite fucking scene, Pinks. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. These motherfuckers are out here with the optical zoom trying to make us fucking think that it doesn't have just a digital zoom. I want that shit to look grainy as fuck. I want it to be just as bad as me zooming in on my fucking iPhone. I want it. However, that moment, that camera work, it losing focus, It was an eternity before I could realize what the fuck he was looking at. And when I finally saw it, I was like, holy shit.
Exactly. Same reaction.
Yeah, I think you're all talking about all the pieces that really just add to the atmosphere in this movie. You know, the camera work, the lighting, the set design, all of this stuff, and the way they executed it just allowed for this movie to really look really good and really creepy in some moments. I feel like for as simple as it may seem, it's one of the best things of the movie. It gives off this creepy, eerie vibe to it, and the shots within the Carmichael Manor were just super good. And even though there are some scenes where you actually don't see anything, but you're still kind of like tense.
I'm going to be the weirdo, though. I have a favorite scene that I think none of you will have, and it is the least Hell House scene of all the scenes, and that is Donald showing off the house. He 100% came across as like a comedic character you would get in something like The Office or Parks and Rec, where he is obviously playing the straight man and can't respond to things and can't take things. He's taking things a little bit too seriously for what's going on. And the role that he has in being the person that's managing this property, but just like his tone, the way he's interacting with the group is comedy to me. And it was funny, and it was a great break from everything else that happens in the film.
Okay. I really thought he was going to be the next Andrew Tully.
Ooh, see, that would have been interesting, and he wouldn't have just been the comedy for me.
Yeah. It also frustrates me, though, that this movie should have been called just Hell House.
Right.
It could have just been Hell House. We could have had Hell House and then Hell House LLC.
Yeah.
Always go simpler.
There's a couple of pretty good scenes. Some of the shots that they give you where you don't really see anything. There's just one scene that comes to mind, and it's the shot of them first like filming when they hear like a voice of a girl singing downstairs or something like that during that first night. And it was something about like, you know, they're all jumbled. They got the camera going. There's that angle of seeing just a little section around the corner of the staircase, even though you don't see anything really, like they're not really showing you anything there. It just was such a good scene that just really started to build those feelings up.
Oh my gosh. So many feelings were built.
That is 1,000% cut from the same cloth as Paranormal Activity.
For sure. Those were like the moments where I was like, this feels Paranormal Activity. And I love Paranormal Activity.
For sure. No, same. And that's why, well, as revealed, Chris and I also have the same favorite scene. That's why I love that scene of Chase being in that hallway and you not even realizing what he's looking at because of what they're doing with the camera work. When it's finally clear that it's a hand, you're already staring at it like, oh shit. And then when it moves, you're like, oh fuck, oh fuck.
Oh fuck, oh fuck, indeed.
But the best part is when she just peeks out behind. That was beautiful.
The little peek out from behind the pillar.
The little peek out and you're still staring at her. This is where the pacing is spot the fuck on. If the whole movie was a lot like that throughout, slash the fuck out of it. 100%.
I'm feeling it all over again.
You're getting it.
I'm feeling it all over again. It's hitting.
It's creepy.
Here's the thing. It's fucking creepy as shit. And then I also feel bad because, like, come on, man. Margaret seemed like such a sweet gal. But we get the hand. We get the fucking porcelain forehead poking out of that mask. But it reminds me of two things. One, the Poughkeepsie tapes. Two, the house is October built because of the scraggly haired bitch in that fucking movie.
We just saw Poughkeepsie tapes together recently. Yeah, you're so right.
We sure did.
I was actually thinking of some other horror films that I've seen recently. I've been watching a lot of foreign films, and Pulse, which is Kurosawa, love Pulse. It reminded me of that one. I also saw Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. That one almost had me fall off my couch. That was gnarly. It reminded me of a particular scene in that film as well. Any of those films that just have you sit in something, a real uncomfortable moment, that's the stuff. And I wish there was just more of that.
Definitely. There's another really good scene in this movie, and it's the scene where Rebecca is literally doing her Zoom presentation or Zoom interview thing, and she's going through the photo files of the listings, and she realizes that it's the house she's in, and it's not only the house she's in, she's actually being photographed from behind in real time, and then the ghost next to her with that little jump scare that you knew had to be coming, but it still fucking got you. Loved it.
Yeah, dude, it's the fucking early 2000s jump scare that we all knew was fucking coming, but it's still so effective. But really, what makes it so effective is Rebecca and how fucking great she is the entire fucking movie. She was great, Chase was good, Margot was terrible, but that's just my ranking.
Interesting. My ranking is Rebecca was great, Margot was good, Chase was terrible. So interesting on that front.
I found Chase fine, totally fine. I thought he was just a goofy brother when he was, dicking around with a camera on his own. I felt that he had like a very earnest performance. Margot overacted the shit out of this entire fucking movie. It was too much.
But
Margot was over the top.
Fair.
I'm like, listen, in what fucking world is Rebecca hooking up with you?
Okay, so first of all, I don't know if we're landing the
it.
same point in the same way. I'm not ranking any of these characters in that way, and I'm also not expecting great acting in a found footage horror film because most of the time it's kind of like whatever, but I think that's also adds to the point of the movie.
But Rebecca gave it to us. Great acting.
Okay, yeah, okay, but Margot and Rebecca together with the chemistry, I can tell you throughout the whole movie, I was not getting relationship energy at all. Like I didn't even, they could have just been best friends. It didn't work. It just didn't work for me. It didn't land. I didn't get it at all.
I have a quick comment on this. Let me tell you all the ways in which they were dating. 1, they shared food. 2, they went antiquing. This man looked at them and said, I know your kind. Do you know the Abaddon Hotel? You might be interested in the antique store selling items from the Abaddon Hotel.
Oh my God.
Fucking lesbians love antiquing. That was lesbian pandering. And there actually were moments where I did believe their chemistry as a couple. I know I talked a lot of shit. There were moments that their chemistry was just fine. But most of the other time, Margot was acting fucking unhinged. And I'm just like, bitch, no.
She was way unhinged.
It's not just Rebecca. How is anybody dating your ass?
The savagery. I can't even believe that we've arrived here because I don't even remember how we even got here, but I'm all here for it. And I want to reiterate that. Definitely did not give not even a sliver of chemistry or vibes that they were fucking. That's for sure.
Thank you.
That's interesting because I immediately got vibes that they were fucking as soon as her co-founder was talking about the fact they were always together. It was giving, and they were roommates. There's that, first off.
That's fair.
But immediately, their chemistry together was very much giving, they spend every second together in the way that lesbian dates last 3 months the first time you fucking go out for dinner.
Okay, yes. But I also feel like the movie's giving you things to tell you they're dating, but it doesn't feel right because they just feel like they're best friends. That's what it feels like to me.
They're also best friends.
I do want to say, though, going back to that scene where Rebecca is on that Zoom call, of course, it's giving the subgenre of found footage, the host, I was going to say missing and searching and all that, but that's not horror. But we know these movies, right? These thrillers and things like that where they use the screen recordings. So I'm glad that they tapped into that subgenre. But it's funny because for me, I actually thought that scene did not hit the way that they had intended for me, but I'm glad that it wasn't just for me, right? Like it hit for you guys, because to me, it was like Rebecca's a smart ass girl. From the first couple photos that you're noticing that this is where you are, why wouldn't you X out? Why wouldn't you try to make an excuse as to why you have to close the presentation to continue to search through these photos when you're realizing that it is where you are currently? You know, when your boss is responding to you and trying to get your attention, I understand that you are scared shitless, but my reaction when I'm scared shitless would be Xing out of that real fast, trying to end this presentation altogether, and then scream at the top of my lungs. And what that scene then gave was a little bit of like fear.com energy, which love it. You know, it's a terrible movie, but God damn it, it's not the 2000s, you know? So I wasn't mad at it entirely. I just didn't think it was as scary as it thought it was for me.
I mean, curiosity killed the cat, I think. You know, if you're in that situation and you start to see something that you're slowly recognizing, I think you're like, let me take another look at this. This is interesting. Where is this going? I don't know. This is fucking... I'm going to find out one way or another, I feel like.
But the difference is that her reaction was that she was scared.
True.
You're like curious, you know? If you're curious, you'd keep searching. She, again, because I think that the actress that plays Rebecca does scared really fucking well. Yeah. So if you're scared and you're freaking out, you would like, I would even close the laptop mid-presentation, you know? Like, that's what I expect when someone's in a fight or flight mode.
Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back again. No. But she's probably a ghost. Here's the thing. Fucking Lake of Fire, in that movie, we saw that we got ghosts of the original cast the whole fucking time. Give me the ghost of Rebecca. And now it's making me think of American Horror Story where you had the gay ghosts in the house.
That's great.
Binks, obviously you mentioned that Rebecca does fear really well when those photos are getting closer and closer and closer. Here's the thing though. Rebecca simply elevates Margot. I'm sure she elevates her in her relationship. Clearly Margot is fucking relying on her for household income because her job is the only one paying the bills. But I think the big disparity there is how excessively terrible Margot's performance is in so many moments. Mac, you mentioned earlier, when Margot is pestering Chase about who he's dating and what he's into and things like that, she's just fucking goofy and almost in a way that reminds me of Stop On By the Clown Cafe, which feels appropriate and also inappropriate at the same time. But all that aside, I gotta say, one of my favorite things about this is that creepy fucking clown from the first movie that has made its way through the franchise was once just a man in a mask. And the slasher enthusiast in me is all about that shit.
I figured as much. My problem with that is I feel like, is that the origin story that I signed up for? Maybe I should have taken a better look at the movie poster after all and realized that the clown is, you know, I see the clown on the movie poster. Doesn't necessarily mean that I expected the origin story to be about the clown.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Binks. The clown is synonymous with Hell House LLC. And the other thing is, the clown was us all along.
Yeah, no, that's for fucking certain. I'll tell you that much. But I don't know how I feel about that kind of reveal. That's my problem with the ending, actually, is because because I expected the origin story to be more tied to the lore of Abaddon Hotel even further. Or at that rate, when I realized, like, okay, maybe it's not going to be so much that, then just give me the clowns and give me something else. But I feel like our time with the Carmichaels wasn't as effective. I felt a little bit more for Margaret. Didn't really care too much about Patrick and Catherine. Like, it's either make this a crime thriller or don't, you know? Is this a major like murder story or is it not? It just didn't really hit altogether. And then I was left with like, oh, so it was Patrick. Maybe I should have rewatched this again and given a little bit more of a fuck about the Carmichael's backstory and not spent so much time thinking, what does Margot's story about being kidnapped at one point or attempted kidnap back then? What's that about? I feel like we're getting three origin stories. The origin of Margot, the origin of Abaddon Hotel very, very slightly, and then we have the Carmichaels as well. And I'm trying to figure out which one I want to invest my time with.
Well, when the hotel burns down and you got to go somewhere with this story, and I do think it's a stretch in a lot of ways. I think they added a lot. You know, we don't get to focus on some aspects long enough for it to really develop properly, but I do think the storyline was okay. I feel like it was still fun to watch, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because they had to create something and now they have ways to tie. And the clown is like also the best thing of all the movies, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not debating that. That's without a doubt. It's all about the clown. And so finding out that the clown was a cult follower at one point or a person at one point is, I'm all for it. That's a cool slasher component. I almost feel like I wish we had more time with the Carmichaels, maybe a little bit more home tapes or some more scares involving the family. And a little bit less of Margot's backstory, a little bit less of Chase altogether, perhaps. Maybe not altogether. That's a little bit of an extreme. But you know what I'm trying to say? I needed more time with the Carmichaels then to really care that it was Patrick. Because at the very end, when it was revealed, I was like, oh yeah, I guess.
I get you.
I do appreciate, although I don't love the actor's performance of Chase, I did enjoy his little moment of silliness. I thought that was kind of fun. That was a comedic reprieve that I appreciated, even though he is definitely the weakest actor in my ranking, I suppose. I just felt like, of course, we have that sibling component where we have one that's a go-getter, an entrepreneur, thus probably feels like she's better than their other sibling who probably has a rougher upbringing, shady past. Not entirely explored, but just enough to make you feel like, oh, this is someone that should probably be like a red herring of some kind in a way when there isn't a need for a red herring.
I didn't even get red herring. It felt like a distraction mainly. Well, I guess that's what a red herring is, but I didn't think there was anything like that this dude was up to.
Sinister to it, right? Yeah. Yeah, I just felt like after a while, I'm like, I guess they just didn't want to do a movie where it's just two women stuck in this house and whatnot. They didn't want to add
I think they just needed a kill. They needed a kill.
They needed to beef it up, yeah.
Had to pad that body count.
In the end, I think to myself, why did we need another story within a story? Why couldn't we just get a film that was around the original story? Just make the film around the Carmichaels and make that interesting. And why do we need to like tuck that into this story about characters that we really don't care about?
Oh, well, I care about them.
You care about Margot as well?
Yeah, I don't like Margot very much, but I do care about the dynamic between her and Rebecca and her brother Chase. I think it's really interesting that she was almost nabbed as a child.
But pick one then. Yeah. I feel like it. So then
I like it all. Life is complex.
It's all tied together. It's just that they didn't have enough time to really dive that deep into everything.
Yeah. And you know what? That's just life. We all have complex lore. We all have our own origin stories.
It's like Shrek, you know? Shrek's like an onion because there's layers. That's what's going on here, right?
Ogres have layers.
That is what's going on. It's okay for movies to have multiple things happening. I think this is not anywhere as egregious as other movies that have had too much going on to the point where they can't juggle or balance any of it.
That's fair. And that's why I have to say what I consider the best part of this film is that despite having so many things going on, this film got the memo from its predecessors and saved the montage of flashbacks for the ending. It wasn't every 5 seconds of the film, like Lake of Fire in particular. So I'm really, really glad that it recognized, yeah, we do have a lot of things going on, and we certainly do have a lot of things within our franchise, but we don't have to revisit every single frame by frame again in a film, because that would have been one more thing on this film's plate that would have had me throw the whole ass plate away. Would have been like, please, I can't take it anymore. Can't take another montage. So they saved it for the very end, and it was a quick one. So I'll give them that.
You know, I can't take it on the montage, but really what I could have done without completely was the fucking Abaddon Hotel. And any contents found in the Abaddon Hotel. The Abaddon Hotel was cool for one fucking movie, guys. Let that shit go. Don't fucking sit here saying, oh, do you know about the Abaddon Hotel? Again, it was giving, do you know the Muffin Man? And for them to have fucking gone to this antique store and found all this shit, and I'm just like, fuck. I'm done.
That's just the craziest shit, dude. It's just the way they found and the way they tied the Abaddon Hotel into the Carmichael Manor in this movie is absolutely absurd. This fucking grandfather clock with this hidden fucking compartment that no one fucking knows about. And it has some footage from the Carmichael Manor. What's going on here?
And Rebecca happens to be just the person to understand that there's a hidden compartment in this clock, because the fucking antiquers themselves, the people who are fucking putting together this whole collection of items, people who would, you know, be exposed to old ass antique fucking grandfather clocks, they wouldn't know. It took Rebecca.
They appraise those things. They know the value of those grandfather clocks. They would know a grandfather clock backwards and forwards. But more importantly, you know what that entire bit taught me? That Patrick was the little bitch of this cult, because they basically had him as the storage unit.
Yeah.
Yep.
That house was the storage unit. And post, death, even as ghost form, he was still the little bitch of the cult. He's the storage unit. He has to take inventory. He has to upkeep all of the Abaddon Hotels things. Incredible.
I will say, though, I feel like the worst part for me, and it's probably not a popular decision based on how everyone's talking about it, but it is just that I wish this movie just stuck in the found footage of it all, and it was just a continuous found footage type film. I just think the documentary, mockumentary thing, I didn't need it for a fourth film. I think we could have done without it, but that's just me.
They need to just pick one and go with it, because I think the best part, at least best executed part, was the documentary part. And perhaps that's because I think we've all been watching a lot of docuseries recently, but the production on that, the production value on that was good. And I think the acting was, of course, not perfect. It's really hard to act like real life human beings when you're acting. For whatever reason, that's just how it works. It wasn't perfect, but it was enjoyable. And I would rather get that sort of setup with compilations from like clips that you would see in docuseries, or simply photographs and other experts talking, and leave out the found footage part, or go completely the opposite way. I think there's this weird thing with found footage where you try to make the footage look like found footage. It's not that you try to make the footage look like real footage. And I think that's simply because it's now become a genre, and that's just how things look. But I think if you wanted to get a good example of something like that, you would go and watch Catfished. That's what the kind of footage would look like, but then it would be found. And I don't think we're there yet here. And I think that does a little bit of a disservice. The footage they have seems like it's being done on purpose for a creepy compilation of footage.
Listen, I know we're talking a lot of shit about this movie, but it will not impede me from watching this again. In fact, I have great pleasure in knowing that when I want to revisit Hell House LLC, I can revisit the Carmichael Manor as a sufficient sequel.
Goodness, I do not look forward to watching this again, and I probably won't. I probably won't have to. But the other impact here is that listening to you talk about part 3, all of you, makes me realize I probably don't have to watch that either.
This is true. I honestly think that this is one of the more rewatchable films in the Hell House LLC franchise. I think you could watch the first one and appreciate it for what it is, and then you might be able to just watch this one and be totally fine. But either way, I definitely think I will revisit this one sometime down the road.
It's a tough one for me, because although I didn't like this one, it was one that I was on the fence about. So I would definitely revisit the first one, but potentially skip over to 4. It's still up in the air.
Well, we'll see how that pans out for you in the future. And Mac, if you're ever willing to give this another shot, doesn't seem likely. But for now, there you have it, folks. Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor from 2023 has earned 2 hacks and 2 slashes. Now, we certainly had a robust discussion here, but it doesn't end here by any means.
If you want to find out how you can go further than this episode, consider supporting the show by subscribing through Apple Podcasts or visiting patreon.com/hackerslash, where you can enjoy even more of the show, including bonus content with early access, extended episodes with our B-sides, which are free sides for the spooky season, movie nominations, and live shows.
And if you loved listening to us debate whether this franchise was salvaged or another disappointment, then leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. This helps us continue to deliver great content for all you horror fiends out there.
We'll see you next time, folks, and remember, evil never dies.
This place is fucked. So I had this idea as I was trying to figure out something fun for our fake sponsor that we throw in there. And I came to this idea of like evil clowns unionizing. But now I'm thinking, what if these horror villains in general, let's open it up to horror villains of all shapes, sizes, and kinds, they unionize, right? We'll keep the local 666 because that's perfect. But what would they be asking for?
Well, probably more PTO. For starters, higher pay.
It's always PTO.
More blood.
Definitely more blood.
I think the henchmen would also try to unionize, like a sub-union within the union. Absolutely.
We got to hash out the union before we get to the sub-union, you know?
Listen, I just think they're full of ambition.
I feel like there's probably stuff they would ask for. You know, I mean, there's so many horror movie villains out there, and collectively, their bargaining power, it would be big. You know, so they would be able to get that extra PTO. They'd be able to protect folks who have seniority and really make sure that they're getting the amount of kills that they deserve in their movies.
I guess.
Yeah.
Who are they making these demands of, though?
Well, the government, obviously.
Is it the government? Is that who really runs the show here? I don't know. Maybe Satan? Maybe they're just negotiating with Satan, Lucifer himself?
Could be.
But then wouldn't like certain horror villains that are closely tied to Satan and like, you know, all of those films, Hell House LLC included, right? Like that entire franchise and how closely tied they are to him. Do they have more like favorable chances of getting
Absolutely.
the things they want?
It's kind of like seniority, except for, you know, preferential treatment. They probably would have less to pay for their dues.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Everyone else pays
Less to
higher
pay.
dues.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, they got to be asking for some kind of health benefits to reattach limbs. And, you know, they get fucked up. They go through some heavy battles with some of these final girls and stuff. And let's be honest, they get an arm chopped off or you get stabbed in the chest and you got to have someone take care of that. Maybe those are some fees that can be helped out by the union.
Yeah,
you know?
except I think they would also probably ask for some kind of harassment protection. You know, like maybe they don't even want to get to the point. They want to probably push the platform of disarming survivors.
Yeah. Okay. For sure. They definitely can. Like something in the battles
Safer
or
working
whatnot.
conditions, really.
Safer working conditions. Yeah, for sure. That would be like the protection from, yeah, for sure, from some kids, man.
And how about some compensation for their axes and knives and...
Yeah, or maintenance, like sharpening those knives, constantly keeping them up to date, you know, getting ammunition. I mean, not that these guys are using too many guns, but sometimes, you know.
I think they want
sometimes
more
they
opportunities, more promotional opportunities.
More screen time?
Yeah, for sure, screen time. Absolutely. They would negotiate better picture deals.
Yeah, sequels, they got to have more prominence in the sequels, man. Oh, man. There's actually quite a lot, I feel like.
What a difference that would have made to the last Halloween movie, you know, to have a union in place protecting Michael Myers. The story would not be the same.
Specifically against that crowd of suburbans in Halloween Kills.
Yeah, exactly. There would have been some sort of workplace grievance filed after that film.
You know what?
That's true.
I bet they would also want some more diverse casting. Like they would want more equitable casting for masked roles.
Ooh. Yeah, for sure, for sure. They'd also need some kind of funding to upkeep these like creepy places that they dwell in, you know? We got like haunted houses here. We've got, you know, creepy old manors and hotels and shit like that. So someone's got to keep those.
Not Michael Myers getting cola.
I was going to say, even when they must be getting a cold, you know, like, are they making doctor's appointments? Do they have that kind of time to be able to go to the doctor and see if they're okay when they're too busy inhaling all kinds of black mold in these homes, right? Is there any maintenance going?
Yeah.
It's a spiral.
Yeah, we need some good health care.
I feel like they also want a retirement plan. Think about the fact that Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees keep having to fuck up these kids in their old ass age.
Man.
They don't have a 401k.
Maybe they need a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
They need a 529 as well available to them and supplemented by, I guess in this case, Satan, because, you know, some of them start young and they want to become even better killers by the time they're fully fledged adults. And really, they should be able to go to college and not have to spend too much. So, yeah.
Oh, shit. What if they negotiated like a resurrection bonus? So every time they're brought back from the dead and forced to suffer through another fucking sequel, they get an extra stipend?
Oh my gosh. Like they're forced to do a sequel.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Oh man, that's good. Yeah. I was just thinking of like them getting like fair representation in sequels, but yes, man, if they're forced to do it, crazy.
And even just like royalties off of that, you know? What's their cut?
There's the wise businesswoman.
What's their cut? We need to negotiate that. Also, like some classes for some financial literacy, right? Do they know about compounding interest? Do they even know what a 401k is to begin with?
What is compounding
don't
interest?
know
I
any
don't
of
even
this.
know what compounding interest is.
Does anybody? Come on.
Binks, with the confidence with which you said that, Binks absolutely knows what compounding
It's
is.
in the word. Yeah, it's compounding. Okay, we're not going to
There's
get
a
into
formula.
high
We're not
yield.
getting into it.
We're not going to get into a high yield savings account right now and what you should be doing with your money
But
in
maybe
terms
this is
of.
what we should do. Maybe this is what the people need, Binks. Nothing spookier than financial poverty.
I feel like for that we need my brother to guest star, and he can provide us a very well thought out and prepared presentation on all that.
But it needs to be within the context of a horror film.
Yeah, he can do that.
Okay.
For sure. He could do it. Would he want to is a different story.
Right.
Could he? Absolutely.
You know, like Gremlins. Okay, Gremlins, there's already a bunch all within one movie. They could have their own union.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
They would have their own union.
Better
for
food
sure.
after midnight.
Exactly. Guaranteed food after midnight.
Guaranteed food and water. Yeah.
And a
stuff.
break during which to eat the food.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Absolutely.
What about, thinking about some of these horror villains like the Phantom of the Opera, or I haven't seen the recent Crow movie, but we have Eric Draven from The Crow. What about like a guaranteed love interest?
Okay.
Or even like the
Yeah,
Mummy,
keep it
right? A Nukes
spicy.
in the Moon.
You got to keep it spicy, you know?
Damn,
Every
but that
once
can
in a
get
while.
real toxic real fast, because is there like, would they be paired off with a female villain? You know what I'm saying? That would be the most ideal situation, I would suppose, because I would hate to have a love interest, you know,
Like
be
a Bride
doomed.
of Chucky's.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah, it's giving Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
Bride of
that's the
Chucky.
energy.
Yeah, okay. What about even
Yep.
compensation for lost loves? So John Kramer losing
and-
his
and-
wife. Well, I guess, did he really lose his wife, or did he push her away and destroy her?
Yes. In Eric Draven's case, that's a perfect example of that one, I suppose. Even though,
Yeah. I mean, even just the legal rights to be able to ensure that you can come back from the dead, because how are you going to carry on these sequels without finding a way back, you know?
Oh, you know what? Fuck that. If I were them and I were unionizing and demanding this, I would want a fresh start with every resurrection. I don't want that credit score following me in the afterlife and then brought back to life. I want to start over. New life, who
Start
dis?
it over. Okay. All right. So you get to reinvent yourself maybe a little bit.
I mean, if I were
A
them.
little reset.
think of the student loans as well. Sorry, can you tell that I work in education? I'm just thinking of like student loans, education opportunities. And I'm like, man, wouldn't that be, still have
It
to
is-
pay off those student loans no matter
It's a
how
horror
many times
for
you get
everybody,
revived.
you know?
It is.
It truly is.
Because of not learning about compounding interest, Dracula's student loan payments, those are massive by this point.
Thank you. They are.
Compounding interest. I'm picking up on what it is by context clues.
There you go.
It sounds like
Oh my
interest, but
gosh.
also worse.
No, compounding interest is good.
Oh, what? That makes no sense to
actually
me
good.
then.
Oh, jeez. We're just going to.
Based on what Max said, Dracula's student loans would be through the roof.
Well, no, hold on. In that particular instance, yes, it was negative. But that's not the same exact compounding interest that I was talking about.
Okay.
Right. You've compounded Chris's interest.
Yeah. I just want to point out this is why a lot of Americans are broke. We don't understand this shit.
And that's what I'm trying to fix in this hypothetical union.
Honestly, bless you, Binks. You deserve way more accolades for that.
Yeah, you can be like the spokesperson for this union.
And if my brother were listening to this in particular, he'd be rolling his eyes because I'm probably not the person to be providing this kind of the same person that just spent $70 on Wi-Fi on their cruise because I got too anxious. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the.
But you know
I don't know
what?
if I'm
I
that
think
girl.
your fiscal responsibility puts you in a position where you could afford to do it.
Thank you.
Boom. There it is.
Are you going to be the union's lawyer
Boom.
because you're doing a good job?
I should have been. My dad says that my sister and I both should have been lawyers, but here we are. I chose to be less confrontational in life. Though,
Dang.
thinking back to the union of it all, I was thinking about Terrifier 2 and how Art the Clown had to do his own laundry. So I feel like they should demand a stipend or a laundry service for getting rid of all the blood off their costumes.
Well, especially him because it's not blood only, right? It's also shit.
Oh,
So
God, I forgot about the shit.
No.
Holy shit, actually.
A lot of bodily things.
As we
Yeah.
happening
record
in there.
this, we're a little over 2 weeks away from our trip to Orlando.
Yeah,
And during that trip to Orlando, we're going to watch Terrifier 3.
this is true.
Allie's coming with me, and she's never seen Terrifier anything. Her only understanding of Art the Clown is that he's on my arm. I'm terrified of the reality that this may go terribly for me.
You should be terrified.
I should be terrified. Holy shit, this could be real bad. I was actually just talking to her about that earlier, and I was like, listen, I don't know how this is going to go. It's not unlike Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, which she loved, but also it's much worse. It's real fucking brutal.
It's brutal
It's
for
much
sure.
worse.
It's very brutal. And, you know, when you throw Santa in the mix, you know some kids are getting it.
She watched the trailer for Terrifier 3 with me and then said, I mean, it seems interesting, but why does it look like an old movie? And I'm like, that's the point. This is going to be fucking terrible when she sees the original.
Well, I mean, I guess you probably... No, you kind of do want to watch the other ones prior, no?
Got to, especially with the runtime
Yeah.
that it's probably going to end up being.
There's too much story now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you watched the second one before the first one, it wouldn't be like the end of the world because it kind of dives into that story.
You know what?
Yeah, you just
The
you have to be strategic about it is all. If she doesn't like the first one, then there's no way she's going to keep going.
I mean, I don't know. I think I enjoyed the first one kind of, and then Terrifier 2 is what really cemented it for me.
No, yeah, it could go either which way. I'm
You
just
never
saying
know.
that if she gets terrified by Terrifier 2 is less likely to happen. Look at Mac.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
Mac is a perfect example.
Yeah, it wasn't so much terrified. It was mostly just did not enjoy and found to be
Right.
overly grotesque.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking in so much that she'll be scared of it. I'm thinking just in general that maybe she just
Well,
will think it's
we'll hate
ridiculous.
it. Yeah, we'll see. Which begs the question then, do these villains need to be unionizing for cinematic legacy protection? They have to control the quality of their sequels.
Yes, I'm telling you, they need it.
It's their
They need it.
livelihood. So yeah.
They need that. They need to protect the legacy. I was just thinking they need some kind of guaranteed like victim allotment of some kind. You know what I mean? Got to keep things interesting, you know, feed the beast. We need to make sure. Feed the beast. Got to make sure we're killing peeps.
Oh my God. I was just thinking about shitty sequels. And then I was thinking about the Friday the 13th in which the killer is Roy and not Jason. And I feel like Jason will want a clause that he is anti-expendable. Like, it has to be him. It can't be any of these rando motherfucker EMTs.
No copycats.
Oh, well, maybe not rando, but I was going to say, like, but his mom was the first one.
Oh, yeah. No.
And mom's the exception. Yeah. Also, when you said shitty sequels, you definitely should have just said Hell House LLC too.
Oh my God. No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
You said, I was like, you said it. And I was like, oh, she's going to connect it to the franchise that we're reviewing today.
Lake of bullshit. Lake of dumpster fire.
Well, I was going to say, in my case, that is also debatable, but right.
Wait, what?
You said likable shit in terms of Friday the 13th?
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you just almost defend Lake of Fire or no? Am I confused?
No. I was talking about Friday the 13th specifically. There is no defending that lake of shit.
No, absolutely not.
There's
but
none.
Hear me out. Speaking of Friday the 13th, there's a Friday the 13th next year in June. A summer Friday the 13th.
Okay.
And you know what we could do? We could go.
Kill some kids at a camp? Don't do that.
No, Mac. But we could go to a place where kids were killed at a camp because we could go tour the actual campground where 80% of the movie was filmed. Like you can do an overnight trip. They do flashlight tours at night. You can ride in the canoes.
Cool.
I really want to fucking go to this. And I think after the October time away, I'm going to put in my next vacation request for October, but I'm also going to spike in the Friday the 13th weekend just in case I can swing it. You're welcome to join.
Although that sounds extremely frightening. It's the kind of frightening that might sway me to even consider going.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be scary.
Right,
I think it's going to just be like, you can appreciate some cool shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, unless they were really trying to scare you, I don't know how creepy it would.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to it, but it's Camp Crystal Lake Tours. And honestly, their merch looks fucking great. I always love the idea of getting like a Crystal Lake shirt, but they always look a little bit cheesy. But these look fucking premium.
I just want to know everything about the name Nobi Bosco.
Nobi Bosco.
I mean, they've been running since 1927, so they've been doing something right, you know?
Yeah.
It's true.
Absolutely. Oh, they even have the fucking Jeep from the movie. Or one that looks like it.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I'm really taking us off the rails of labor laws, but also
Yeah, we should be teaching kids in camps about unions. That's what you're saying.
I don't know that that's what I'm saying, Mac.
Everyone should learn about how important collective bargaining is to democracy. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Everyone should know about making a well-informed decision about your right to bargain collectively.
That's right. And that it's fundamental to how killers should run their businesses as well.
Hashtag
Not even just killers, just horror movie icons in general, ghosts included.
This place is hilarious. There's one picture with an axe. I don't know what that's about.
Really cute little like soundtrack cassette.
Yeah, I saw
which
that.
makes me wish I had a little Walkman still.
I know. I have a couple of actual cassettes lying around.
Oh, this is cute because it's like clear with red accents and glitter.
Ooh, glitter is for winners.
Wait, I'm sorry. We rewound Hell House LLC, yes? Why don't I remember Binks liking it?
That's crazy.
Why don't I remember that? Holy shit. I honestly think my brain and my memory is tarnished by the bullshit that followed.
You're probably blending both.
Yeah.
You're making me second guess myself, and now I'm looking it up.
No, I believe you. I'm in no way doubting the validity of your slash. I just think this franchise was a huge fall from grace.
So I actually have some fact checking to provide because clearly we've just been through such a whirlwind when it comes to this franchise. I think we thought that we rewound this with me and Sean in it. We actually haven't.
Holy
we just
shit.
we just
we
watched
just talked about it.
We just talked about how much we liked it. So we
Amazing.
haven't done the first or the second one in terms of our opinions on them.
That's why I don't remember it.
We're all losing our minds.
Technically, we're both right.
We were both right. Look at that. Yeah, I was going to say, although perhaps there is some of a gap in terms of lore, the pain, was not endured.
The pain.
And
Listen, the family that suffers together. And I think we need to suffer together.
That's right.
I know what you were going to say. I know what you were going to. The family that suffers together stays together?
Yeah.
Because
well,
that's crazy.
It also just suffers together.
Maybe I'm just missing that one old dude that was doing the interviews in the first couple of films,
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sean loves a balding white man.
He was just really silly.
We'll tell his wife.
Oh, wait. No, you're talking about the older dude the cool guy who was interviewed. I thought you were talking about the motherfucker running the Abaddon Hotel because holy shit, I was tired of him.
No, not that fucking guy.
No.
The weird guy with the beard.
Yeah. Okay. No, the weird guy with the beard was actually very cool and I respect that. Yeah. Bring that guy back. They're fucking, but they're also best friends. But they also probably suffer from lesbian bed death, which is lesbians who get together, they're in love, they're together forever, and then they stop having sex.
I've learned so much this evening.
I've learned so much. Wow.
I mean, listen, is it a thing? I've read about it in books, yes.
I've read about it in literature.
It's in the handbook.
It's part of the agenda.
Incredible. So enlightening.
I have a confession about something that this entire conversation has just reminded me of.
Okay.
You forgot who Patrick was too?
No, I didn't forget who Patrick was. It's reminding me of Amityville 2: The Possession.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, kind of,
as
yeah.
it should. As it should, because it's not like this is super duper original.
Okay, dude, listen here. You gotta take it,
Listen
take it
here,
easy.
dude.
What I mean, I'm not saying that Patrick and Margaret had anything weird going on, but Patrick being the son who ends up killing his family, sure, it's giving the Amityville horror, but specifically the multi-sibling component, and there's something there about Patrick feeling all that guilt for being involved in Margaret's death. For some reason, it's giving me that really uncomfortable feeling that the eldest siblings gave me in Amityville 2: The Possession.
That's dark.
Yeah,
It is dark.
I don't like it.
Well, here we are.
I did like that movie, though.
Nice.
Is it nice?
I don't know.
Oh, probably not something I should be proud of, but here we are.